Hi guys, welcome back to another Scout the Defender YouTube video to a slightly different, snowier setting. This week we've been up in the Scottish Highlands, but I wanted to make sure that I filmed a video for you guys. So in today's video, I thought I would do a quick Q&A. All of the questions that I frequently get asked over on Instagram and also here on YouTube, I wanted to try and document as many of those as possible and also open it up for you guys to ask any questions that you have about Scout, about Project Blue, whatever that may be, and I'm going to start to answer them in today's video. So it's a bit cold, I'm going to jump straight into it. Right, let's get Instagram open and start to look at some of the questions that you guys have asked. First one, where is the best price to find a well-priced Defender but good quality Defender for a first-time buyer? Now, I do get this question asked so many times, and I think it's a question that's really hard to actually answer. When I was trawling for Scout, I had alerts set up on Auto Trader, on Piston Heads, trawling Facebook Marketplace too, trying to find a Defender that was of the right kind of mileage, the spec that I wanted, but also from a decent, well-known place. I know there's lots of places online that I would definitely avoid, especially if you're a first-time buyer and you're nervous. In the end, I ended up buying through a dealership, which effectively ended up being more expensive, but it gave me that peace of mind that I had an element of a warranty with it, and it was an approved dealer. It all depends your level of confidence with who you're buying from, but I would definitely have a look at Auto Trader to get a sense of the prices. You can also see like trend graphs of what the prices are that have sold. Equally, like collecting cars is a good place to get a sense of where the market actually is. There's lots of inflated prices around, so be sure to get a good sense of kind of the value. And then ultimately, when you're going to look at cars, make sure you've got a really good checklist of the things you're looking for. Often it can get almost overwhelming looking at cars and you forget to check the important things. So on Defenders, obviously that's your chassis, that's your rear cross member, any areas of prone to rust and rot, be sure that you're checking those out. Don't be too worried about mileage. At the end of the day, these cars have been around for a long time now, and if they've been serviced regularly and looked after, the mileage shouldn't put you off too much. This has got 110,000 miles on it now, so it's got a few miles under its belt, but I think those are the main things. Try and get a sense of the rough ballpark cost, and then if you're really nervous, go through an approved dealer. Expect to pay more, but equally you're getting that reassurance of a warranty of some sort that if anything's to go wrong in the first 6-12 months, you know that you're covered and you can always go back to that dealership. So the second question is, how much has the Scout build cost? Well, I've detailed a big Excel sheet of all of the costs involved in modifying and running Scout, which I think I should do a separate video on and do a full breakdown of everything that I've spent. Obviously, buying the car in the first place is the biggest expenditure. Scout was, I think, £21,000 when I bought it, and then obviously I've done lots of modifications and work to it, and also the running cost as well of these cars isn't cheap. To insure it, it's around £700 a year. On top of that, you have tax, so there's loads of costs involved, but Scout cost around £21,000 to buy, and it's at least probably £10,000 worth of kit at least that I've put on it, but I will do a full breakdown video at some point in the future detailing everything that I've modified with Scout and how much generally it has cost me. Next question, what are the next few upgrades for the camper build? So in the last video I did a bit of a walk around of what's planned for 2020, but with Scout in particular, any camping build modifications, the main thing that I'd like to do next is fit some sort of expedition windows to the back. So at the moment it's the station wagon, it's got the sliding windows. I would love to fit something like the Explore glazing fold out windows where you can get into the rear cab. It means that you can be much more kind of efficient when you're camping and you don't have to keep opening the back door. So that would be probably the next modification from a camping perspective that I'd be looking to do to Scout. Next question, and a quite appropriate one today. Do you find the back door handles and the locks jam in this weather, and any tips to resolve this? Yes, I do. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen I documented just the other day how difficult it was to get into Scout when it had been frosty. All of the doors had iced up to the point where you couldn't push the locks at all. The main thing I do normally is go to the back door. Often that doesn't seem to freeze up as bad as the door handles, so I'd go through there. If anyone's watching, it looks really weird because I'm just jumping through the back door, climbing all the way through to the front seats to unlock the both side front doors. Or the other thing you can do when you're out and about is just breathing on the door handles. That's often what I have to do. Whilst we've been out up in Scotland, that's happened a few times. We've gone out to the shops, not been able to get back into Scout, so just breathing on the door handles. There's a few preventative measures that I've seen online that I've not actually done myself, but maybe I need to do a bit of a test. One of them is if you know it's going to be a frosty night, just spraying lots of WD-40 into the locks will prevent those from freezing up. I've not tested that. Also, a few people have mentioned just Vaseline as well, but again, I've not tested any of these. So if you do have any theories, let us know in the comments down below. Next question, would you ever consider putting a BMW M57 engine in your 110? I also have a Puma that I'm considering doing nick to. And a similar question also, will you ever engine swap Scout? Now, I always thought that I was going to be a bit of a Puma purist, or only ever run a Puma engine in a Puma Defender. However, I went for a little spin in someone's 110 that they had put an M57 engine in, and it was so cool. It was so like buttery smooth, so much more power, and it just felt just generally more of a sturdy engine than the rattly old Transit engine that's in these. So I don't think it'll be something that I'll do immediately, but at the same time, when it comes to the point where inevitably the engine has died in this, which you know, we had the head gasket issue this year, so when the engine has run to the end of its life, I definitely would consider putting an M57 engine in it. I've always been against the idea, but having had a go in someone's fairly recently, I can say it did really transform the car, made it much more drivable, much more power, and also so much smoother, less rattly. So I definitely consider doing that now. Next question, what would be the best piece of advice you would give to someone considering a Landy? Now, I guess the first thing to note here is that I was in this position where I spent years considering buying a Landy. The main thing I would say was just go for it. If you can afford it, if you do the calculations to make sure that you can run it effectively, you can look after it well, then just go for it. But obviously there's a few things to consider. One thing I would definitely consider when you're thinking about buying a Landy is that these are obviously very desirable cars now, and they're prone to being stolen. That's something that plays on my mind quite a lot, and I think it's such a shame, and one of the biggest downsides of owning a Defender is often that worry of where am I going to park it, is it going to be secure, have I put all of the locks on it, and etc. So that's probably the biggest downside for me in Defender ownership, is that niggling worry always whether you've parked it in a secure place and whether it's going to get stolen or nicked. So I think that's the biggest consideration for me, that if you're not going to enjoy that kind of worrying constantly, then maybe this car's not for you. Equally, from a comfort factor, there's much more comfortable vehicles out there that are just as capable. So maybe again, if you're not willing to sacrifice a little bit of comfort, then that's maybe a Defender's not for you. And then also, if you're not willing to accept their niggles and their quirks, Scout, although it's, you know, in the grand scheme of things, a relatively younger Defender, it still had loads of issues, so like turbos and head gaskets. And if you're not willing to accept that those things come with owning a vehicle like this, then again, maybe a Defender's not for you. But I can say that if you're considering it for a long period of time and you're always getting that nagging thought in your head that you want a Defender, I think sometimes you just have to go for it. At the end of the day, you can always sell it if you don't get on with it, but there's no way that I regret buying Scout, and I've loved not only owning Scout, but also been able to film these videos and document the journey on Instagram too. So I think if you've got that thinking, that hankering for a Defender, then you just got to go for it, bite the bullet, because you won't drive anything that's quite the same as a Defender. Next question over here on YouTube. If the Defender was never made, which other car would you own today to do your adventures with? A tricky one. If Defender was never made but Land Rovers still were, then I would probably go for something like a Disco 4, maybe even consider the new Defender. Again, I know that's another question coming up, but I'd maybe go for a Discovery 4, something again from the Land Rover brand that's just as capable, and still kind of got that utilitarian look to it. I'd probably consider something like a Disco 4. If Land Rover didn't exist, then I'm not really sure. I was talking to a few people the other day about potentially like a pickup truck, a Ford Raptor, a Ford Ranger, something like that. I think they look wicked. They can look really aggressive, and also again they've got that utilitarian look. You can throw your stuff in the back and just go anywhere. So I think it would probably end up being something like a Ford pickup, a Ford Raptor, a Ford Ranger, something to that effect. But thankfully Defenders are still around, and hopefully this one is here to stay. A question similar to that is, would you ever consider buying the new Defender at some point? So again, we were having this debate last week. I was camping. We were having this debate, and I think I definitely am becoming more and more open to the new Defender. I don't think it's a replacement for this old school Defender. I think it's more of a next in line to a discovery in terms of not only its visual looks but also just the way it feels inside. But I would definitely be open to owning one, but again, I don't think it would be in a direct replacement. If I was fortunate to have an endless amount of money in an endless car garage, then definitely I would consider having one of the little urban Defender 90s alongside this. I think it would be really cool. I think they look great. I just don't think they're a direct replacement for one of these. But I would definitely be open to owning one of them at some point. Again, when values drop a little bit. But yeah, I wouldn't ever say no to one. I think maybe when they first came out, I was anti new Defender, but now I do think that they look cool, and they're quite different to other cars on the market in terms of their looks. And yeah, maybe I would consider one. Now the next question, what's your favourite thing about your Defender and what's its best quirk? Well, these Defenders as a whole have, I guess, a lot of quirks. So I guess one of the quirks when you own a Defender, it's not necessarily a quirk of the vehicle, but it's when you're driving along and you see other Land Rovers, feeling like you're part of a club, a part of a gang is quite fun. It's always a bit of a quirk when you're driving along the road and you'll flash and you'll wave to someone that's in a Defender. That's always quite cool. Other things, I guess, is like the seating position. That's always, again, a bit of a quirk. When people get in it for the first time, they don't realise that for such a large vehicle, how much restricted space you have. Your elbow's not really got anywhere to go. To wind the window down, you've got two buttons that are in front of you rather than mounted to the side of the doors. Wind down windows still in the back. There's loads of little quirks about that, but again, you love them for that. And as part of the same question, what's your favourite thing about your Defender? I think it's the ability to go anywhere. We have it packed up effectively always in camping mode, so that we've got all of our gear in the back, so on a Friday night after work, if we want to, we can just jump in it and go, and we don't have to worry about packing it up. Having the roof tent on the top and the awning has just made a massive difference. So as I said, when that Friday afternoon comes, we can just jump in and go wherever we want and know that we're not going to get stuck, especially even like this week out in the Highlands. There's no way we'd have got to this house where we're staying at in another car. The roads were totally, well, not gritted at all, totally snowed in, and it was a bit sketchy sometimes even in Scout. But I think that's the best thing about owning a Defender. It's that you can just pack it up and go, and you know that you're going to get to where you need to. And touch wood, Scout has, although it's had its niggles, has never actually let us down on a trip. So that would be the best thing about owning a Defender. Now, a final couple of questions. These are the comments that I get asked all the time on Instagram, on YouTube, that I thought I'd just try and cover whilst I'm doing this Q&A video. The first is, where is the grille from? I get this question all the time. It's one of those questions that just will always come up. So the grille itself is from Zunsport. That just mounts to the existing AC grille on the Puma Defenders. The only thing I did was, where grills normally push in with the trim clips, that you get 3 holes either side of the grille. I really hate it when you can see those on cars. So I took it to a garage, I got those filled, sanded, and then painted, so it looks kind of as original as it can. You don't get kind of like studs pushed into where the existing holes were. That was one thing that I was just desperate to do when I did the grille. So yeah, the grille is from Zunsport. The headlight surrounds are from TMD Tuning, and they've got the same grille pattern insert in the headlight surround themselves, so it all kind of matches up. Next question, what tent do you have and where is it from? So again, I always get asked this. The tent is a Vicky Wood Mighty Oak 190 tent, and that is from the guys at ORE. So you'll have seen in my latest videos where we've been camping, that is the tent in the videos. It's a wicked bit of kit. It's massive inside, so you can easily fit 3-4 people. It's a 4-man tent, and we have loads of extra room in there. It's got like a memory foam mattress inside, so it's really comfortable. Again, I'll leave a link to when I first got the tent. I did a bit of a review on it. I'll leave a link either in the comments or pinned somewhere on this video, so go and check that out if you're interested. But I always get asked that. So that is the Mighty Oak 190 tent from Vicky Wood, and the guys at ORE supplied that. And the final question, is it a headache now owning 2 Defenders? So if you don't know, I've got Scout, the Project effectively camper build, and we've got Blue, the Project 90, which is much more of an ongoing build, turning what was a hardtop 90 Defender into a soft top, which is really exciting journey. The only real headache is just managing not only scheduling the videos to make sure that I'm documenting both builds, but also all of the paperwork involved with owning multiple vehicles. We have Scout, we have Project 90, we also have a little runaround car, and it's just keeping on track of the tax, the insurance, and also the costs involved. You often don't really realise just how much those costs build, so that's the only real headache. I love having it, and Project 90 is definitely going to come into its own in the summer, which I can't wait for. But yeah, the only headache is all of the admin that comes along with owning another car. But yeah, I can't wait for it to come into its own. When the sun comes out, Project 90 is really going to come into its own, and we can go for a hoon on a Friday evening after work in the sun and go for a beer or two. So yeah, I'm excited for that. So that's it. Thank you guys for submitting all of those questions. It was really fun to see all the questions you guys frequently ask, but also some new questions that I hadn't answered before. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll be back next week with another video, so stay tuned. Subscribe to follow the journey of both Scout and Project Blue, and give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week.